Is this thing on? Looks like the volume mix looks pretty nice. My voice and the music. Um, every new expansion, I go ahead and make a little video looking at all the starter decks and kind of evaluating them, both kind of looking at what they give you and then also looking at ways that you could potentially improve the decks just a little bit. This expansion is kind of notable because every single uh, starter deck features a EX Mon, which is not always true, and also you can get one of them for free. And a lot of people last time said I should hurry up and make this video because they want to know which of the free EX Mons that they should take. Um, well, more accurately, they want to know which starter deck they should take. And there's two kind of ways to look at it. If you've got no cards at all, you probably want to take the starter deck that's the most playable, in which case you'll probably have to watch the whole video and hear me listen to which ones I think are the best functionally, because I haven't actually looked at them yet. But if you've already got a few cards, probably the one you want is... There's two ways to think of it, I think. You either want the best card, the best EX card, if you're just trying to win in competitive, or you want the hardest one to obtain. And I think they're all the same rarity, so the hardest one to obtain is just whatever one you happen to get last. So, you know, you got 35 days, as of this, me recording this, you got 35 days left of the event. Just get, you know, the other 8, and then whatever one that you haven't gotten yet, just get that starter one. That's what I did. I'm not trying to build, you know, I don't care too much about the getting 2 of a particular EX yet. I've already got 2 of a couple, and I'm just going to be playing the decks of the ones that I have 2 of. I think I have 2 Pikachus, 2 Giratinas, and 2 Beedrills. And so I'm just playing with those. Anyway, I'm not trying to bury the lead or anything. Is that the right term? So I actually just made a tier list of the EX cards that I think are the best if you're just trying to win. Here it is. Alright, looks like it's showing up on the screen properly. I guess I'll just talk about these cards really quickly. I've played enough now that I've got a loose idea of how they all function. Giratina's a fiend. It has 150 HP, which is a very serviceable amount. And either just using it in the lead spot or using it hiding behind a Druddigon, you can very easily live a few hits and bellow enough to get your energies. The way it works is you can dedicate your turn to bellowing instead of attacking. The bellow attaches a psychic energy to Giratina. So it basically allows you to attach 2 energies per turn as long as you're not attacking, which is quite useful. You can use that already if you weren't going to attack anyway. For example, if you're hiding behind a Druddigon on a kind of stall deck, it's a free action. It's like energy acceleration for no cost other than the Giratina, which itself is an attacker. But then even if you have like attackers, let's say you're using it with Mewtwo, you can lead with Mewtwo, and the first energy you can't attack with Mewtwo anyway, so you just attach the energy to Mewtwo and then bellow with Giratina, and it's a free energy like that. It also kind of allows you to get an energy on turn 1, which is kind of novel and nice. Normally you can't attach an energy until turn 2, and the only way around that was Misty previously, but now Giratina can put an energy on itself turn 1, which is not amazing, but can be used with Dawn, for example. On your first turn, if you leave Mewtwo and have Giratina, let's say, you know, it could be any Psychic Mom, but let's say Mewtwo, you bellow with Giratina turn 1, and then on turn 3 you attach an energy to Mewtwo and Dawn your Giratina energy onto Mewtwo, and now Mewtwo's ready to attack. Stuff like that. And there might be some potency with that, although I haven't really seen it in full force yet. But Giratina by itself, Giratina with Darkrai, Giratina with Mewtwo, Giratina with Druddigon, Giratina with Darkrai and Druddigon. I've been seeing a lot of combos with Giratina, and that thing is a threat. It's probably the easiest EX card to use. That's not true. It's the hardest one to counter of the ones that we've presently got in the game. There's some very straightforward EX cards in this pack. You know, a Bibarel, you get enough energies on it to attack with it, and you just attack. That's pretty simple. But Giratina, I think, is probably the one that's the most metagame defining, because it slots into a lot of decks that were already pretty strong. You don't even have to run it in its own color. You don't have to run it in Psychic because it attaches Psychic energies to itself. That being said, its attack costs 3 energies, which is quite pricey. Enough about that one. I'll try to make this a bit quicker. Charizard, I think I've got these ordered within the tiers, by the way. I think Charizard is probably the next best one, although it could be Wugtrio. And I'm not sure. This is still really early in the metagame, so this could be wildly different, like in a few weeks or even. The thing about Charizard is that it requires your deck slots to run it, but it requires basically nothing else. It requires no energy investment. You just have to build it up in the back. It works fine if you build it up, if you lead with it too. I've actually seen a deck that was just two Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, no other Pokemon. I don't love that, but apparently it did quite well in a tournament. But even if you're running just other Firemons, for example, you're running Heatran, Arceus, or something like that, and then you just have the Charizard line, you just put it on the bench, and you don't need to attach any kind of energies to it, because once you get it to a Charizard, it can just attach all the energies to itself really quickly. It only needs a single turn of setup. And 180 HP is enough that you can get that turn off reliably. There's very few things that are going to be able to kill you in one hit, like other Charizards, and that's it. Very good card, I think, but just because of the very minimal investment it needs, it's very reminiscent of Magnezone. I think that one's quite good. The problem is you can't really run it outside fire, but you know that's typical. Most cards require you to use them in their own element, and I think there's enough good Firemons that you can just put Charizard in there and do some work with it. Wugtrio is super good, I think. 3 energies is not free to build up. You do have to do a little bit of legwork to start attacking with it, but 3 energies is low enough that once you get the 3 energies, you're doing 150 damage per turn, and you know, compared to Articuno, which is doing like 80 to the main target and then 10 damage to the bench spawns, Wugtrio's damage output is just absolutely insane. So if you get some good Misty Flips, it basically wins on the spot. You do have to evolve it, which is not always easy. But stage 1 is pretty good. That's a lot faster than some of the other things on here. Like, it's a lot better that it's a stage 1 than a stage 2. There's a very real difference there. And then that damage output, being able to hit Mons on the bench is already very powerful for Cyrus. And just throwing out 150 every turn when you're almost certainly going to get at least 2 of those off, you're going to be killing at least something, probably several things. And those kills could be EX kills giving you 2 points or even 3 points or whatever. The damage threshold is a little sad. You know, you wish you were doing 60 damage per hit or something like that so you could kill basics. 50 is not enough to kill most basics. But I think the power, the damage output of Wugtrio, combined with the fact that it can rapidly activate with Misty, and it's not like it's slow if you're using it just organically, just putting energies on it normally. But of course you can run it with stuff like Dawn or Manaphy as well to get the energies on it, or Island Vaporeon, stuff like that. You have quite a lot of freedom with Wugtrio. I think it's a huge threat. Pikachu is just kind of like almost in like an insurance card. A lot of electric mons don't need a ton of energy. It kind of depends on what it is. The idea with this Pikachu EX, I think, is that you can kind of build it up just enough, and then the opponent can't kill anything because the nanosecond they kill something, the Pikachu comes in and kills them back. 150 damage is enough to one-shot almost anything in the game, especially if you got red in your deck, to just like do 170 to an EX mon. Very, very powerful, very huge hit. And then the fact that you're discarding all your energies, it can not matter. Having to devote so much time putting energies on it, either if you run it with Pachirisu or if you just run electric mons that don't require much energy attachment, for example the Volkner mons or the Magnezone. And then also Pikachu discarding 3 energies to use this attack is actually very nice for Volkner, because it then sets you up to pull them back out of your discard pile. So you can get a big attack with Pikachu early on in the game, and then you know, start clearing with a Electivire shortly after. And then, you know, the fact that you were attaching all your energies to a Pikachu doesn't really matter because you get them all back at once. So I think that's actually a very good card too. Beedrill, I was on the fence. I'm not really sure if it's a good card or not. It really would like to come out as early as possible, but it's a stage 2, so that's just frequently not going to happen. Eventually, it's a lot of games it's just going to come out late. But even if it comes out late, it 2-hit KOs most of the game, especially with a red. And discarding the opponent's card, discarding the opponent's energy is already quite obnoxious for, like, they have to devote all of their turns putting new energies on in order to be able to attack you back. And you'll probably live 2 or even 3 hits because you got 170 HP and potentially healing with Erica. Very difficult to kill a Beedrill. And then that pairs excellently with Rocket Grunt, because if you get even a single heads with Rocket Grunt plus the energy discard, most people don't put more energies than what they need to attack on their Pokemon. So if you pull the Beedrill and you get the Rocket Grunt and you have them discard even a single energy, and then Beedrill, they got -2 energy and they can't attach to get ready to attack. So they often, that mon that's in is useless, and it often can't even retreat because it doesn't have any energy, or at least not enough to retreat. So unless you're playing a mon which only needs a single energy to attack, such as like a Rampardos, Beedrill has like a really good chance of just getting a free kill on like most of the game. I think it's, and then whatever comes in after probably can't one shot you, and then you could potentially get the same thing off, or just Um, the thing is, most things will have enough energy to start doing work by the time Beedrill is ready, because it's a stage 2 and it takes a while to get up. And then also, 80 damage per hit is just not a whole lot. Like, that's not going to one hit KO almost any EX in the, well, it's not going to one hit KO any EX in the game, but it's not going to one hit KO even a ton of just evolved Pokemon. So that damage output is just, it just feels really weak. But disrupting the opponent's energy situation is really good, and then the survivability of Beedrill is also very good. And it's not like the evolutions are bad either. That's one of the really nice things about Beedrill, is a lot of Pokemon, to get to their stage 2, they have to go through a very mediocre basic in stage 1. Weedle is a little mediocre, but Kakuna is actually decent with its HP and its paralysis chance, and its low attacking cost. So it's actually very feasible to get a Beedrill onto the field with like full HP, even if it was out or near full HP. I really think the lack of power is hurting it, and then the fact that it's probably going to be coming out late. So it's like, I almost put it in the bottom tier. I don't think any of these cards are bad. Tinkaton, the high HP is great. And then you've got stuff like Adamant or whatever to reduce damage further. The energy cost is not so high that you need to run it with acceleration. You can absolutely run it outside of Dialga deck. It does work with Dialga, but you can run it without. I think I saw a deck using Skarmory Tinkaton that was very strong. Skarmory only needs a single energy and will typically survive for multiple turns, allowing you kind of free energies to put on your Tinkatink or whatever. The fact that it's a stage 2 hurts it a little bit, and then its damage output, if you get Tails, is really low. 160 is awesome, but 80 is low. It's just a really uncomfortable jump in damage. Like, you'd rather be doing 120 every time or something like that, which is, like Machamp. But 160 is enough to one hit KO almost everything. So it's a really good card if you're lucky, and it's still an okay card if you're not lucky. It just lacks consistency because of that coin flip. Clodsire, it activates really quickly. It's not a bad card at all. It's just that you're very reliant on poison because it's got 3 retreat cost. Combine that with only 2 energy to attack, and you need to put an extra energy on it to retreat, or else like use a leaf and then still discard an energy. And that's very awkward. And that's in order to get an Amon that can poison reliably, such as anything with Poison Sting or Wheezing or something like that. And then also setting up your poisons for it. Like, let's say you spend a turn, you get a poison, and then the next turn you're ready to play your Koga or retreat and get in the Clodsire and do the 120 hit. But what if the opponent evolves or like switches out in that turn? All of a sudden, the Clodsire is not going to be doing a ton of damage if it comes in. You're not ready to bring in Clodsire anymore. So that's very awkward. So because of that, Clodsire, I think, is very reliant on Grafaiai in order to work, because Grafaiai can poison the opponent while Clodsire is on the active spot, and it's the only Pokemon that can do that. But it's a coin flip to have it work, and you get 2 chances if you got 2 Grafaiais on the bench. So if you're running Clodsire and you've got it out and you've got 2 Grafaiais, that's really good odds that you're going to get your big hit off. The problem is that's very rarely going to happen. Usually you're going to have 1 or 0 Grafaiais on the bench. And if you have 0, of course, you're just doing your 120 damage hit once, or your 60 damage hit even, and just, that's not too much damage at all. But then once you get the, if you have the heads on the Grafaiai, you're doing 120 plus the 10 poison damage, and then even more if the opponent can't switch out. So it's very good if you can get your big hits off. It's not even that insane. 130 is a lot, but it's not like busted. It's pretty good for 2 energies. The whole thing can activate really quickly is the really enticing point. Like, you can just get a Wooper, a Clodsire, a Shroodle, and a Grafaiai in like your starting hand, or within the first few draws after your first Oak or something like that. So on your second energy attaching turn, you can get the whole combo off, which is really nice. But it's kind of a middle game strategy and not a late game strategy. And you're devoting quite a lot of your decks, the 8 Pokemon, just to that little combo. So, you got a little bit of room left. Like, yeah, sure, you can run a Weavile or something like that, or a Darkrai. It's not like it doesn't work with those. But I think the fact that you need Grafaiai to get heads is a big problem. Or you need to run it with, like, Wheezing, and then after the Wheezing is gone, like, you don't have a good way of getting Clodsire out again. And I think that's all a little bit awkward. Lucario, it's just too weak, I think. 100 is not a whole lot. It's basically like what's that mon? Empoleon. It's doing a little bit more damage than Empoleon is, and it's easier to get on the field because of uh, it's a stage 1 and not a stage 2. But let me think. It's not appreciably stronger. 30 damage on bench mons is nice for Cyrus. Whoa. My stamina pack has recovered. I can open a booster pack. That was loud for me. What was I saying? 100 is not enough to kill like anything in one hit if it's like an EX mon in front of you. And then 30 on bench mons is enough to soften them up, but even 100 plus 30 is not enough to kill most things. So, like, you know, you can hit it on the bench, and then when it comes in, your next hit with Lucario probably won't even kill it. And, of course, you can have another Lucario, like a regular Lucario, powering you up, but you can only have one, because one of your Riolus is the Lucario EX. So, it's not a bad mon, per se. It doesn't even activate that much faster than Empoleon does, because it still needs 3 energies. I think that people will typically run, like, Lucario decks, just using Lucario to power up other fighting mons, and then just run like 2 Lucarios, but then a single Lucario X, just for the versatility. So like if you're running your Machamp deck and then you got some Lucario, some Riolus, and then something bad happens, they just get a quick kill on your Machamp or whatever, on your Marshadow, I don't know what. You've got like the Lucario. You could evolve one of your Riolus into a Lucario and put like an extra energy on it compared to a normal Lucario, and then like come in and maybe do some work. It's like a little backup insurance mon, because its damage output is way higher than a regular Lucario. But it's just kind of like an alternate option, I think. I don't think you would build an entire deck around it. I think you would just kind of run it as like a potential evolution for Riolu if things kind of need to go that way in the match. Bibarel is... I think Bibarel's quite definitively the worst. I feel comfortable putting it there. I'm not super sure, actually. I take it back. I'm not sure of anything. Take all this with a grain of salt. The thing about Bibarel is that it just needs too much energy, and it doesn't work with any energy acceleration, because it's a normal type. Like, it only works with Manaphy and Alga, and both of those, you'd rather be attaching the energy to anything else. Like, not Bibarel. Like, why not just power up an Arceus with that? Why are you powering up Bibarel? I'd rather be doing 130 damage per hit than 100 damage per hit and healing 30. The healing effect is kind of nice. They built a nice little gimmick deck with it. I remember fighting in the like versus matches or whatever. It's like the expert solo battle, where it just heals and heals and heals. But the lack of damage output, like it can heal so and so damage per turn, but if you're just out damaging that, you can just kill it in a couple hits, three hits maybe. And it just takes so long to get going. And Bidoof is not a great Pokemon either. I think that all really hurts it. You'd just rather be building up other mons. It's just outclassed, that's all. Any deck that you can build up a Bibarel, you could be building up any other EX mon that's a particular type. So why use a colorless one? Anyway, this is my approximate tier list for the EX cards. So if you just want to pick a good one, probably go by that tier list. And again, it's, take it with a grain of salt. But now that we're here, since we got all that out of the way, let's actually look at the decks and see what's going on inside them. Beedrill. I got 2 of the shiny Kakuna, that's kind of cool. I think there's a teeny bit of synergy here. I don't like I do think Pinsir's a good mon, and you do have spare energies, because Beedrill doesn't need a whole lot, and Meowscarada doesn't need a whole lot. But obviously, if this Pinsir was another Meowscarada or another Beedrill, and then the Lopunny line, obviously, if they were tools, pretty much any one of these where they got some random colorless mons, they should be like tools or trainers. It should be like stuff like Sabrina, stuff like Giant Cape, stuff like Rocky Helmet, stuff like Cyrus, stuff like Red, stuff like Team Rocket Grunt. All those are considerations, not any of this. Iono, maybe. Iono is really good in decks that have stage 2s, I think. And this deck has not 1 but 2 stage 2s. So that's kind of awkward. And it's like the base cards aren't attacking, which is also kind of awkward. Like Buniri and Pinsir are, I guess technically. Pinsir can't attack for a ton of turns. What's your early game with this deck? You know what I mean? I think that's a weakness here. Sprigatito's not attacking, although its effect is extremely useful. It's not an attack. And then Weedle's not attacking either. So you really are very reliant on getting an evolution off early. But with the low attack requirements of these cards, that's feasible. It's just a little awkward. I think this deck is fine. I think you can use these mons together. I even think Pinsir could be there if you want to put it there. You don't need to run Energy Acceleration with this deck, so there's no need for Superior, Leafeon, or anything like that. They're good cards, but there's no need for them. You could stick a Celebi in here if you wanted to. You could put Executor in here if you wanted to. I don't think they're necessary. I think this deck is functional as it is. Meowscarada is a pretty good card. Beedrill is a pretty good card. You could use this, and I think you would have decent success with it. The X speed is nice. The red is nice. I like the red with Meowscarada. I like it with Beedrill as well, but I especially like it with Meowscarada because you're doing like what 150 with red. It's yeah 130 plus 20. That's nice. I kind of like that. That whole little thing kind of works together. This one I'm gonna say this is like an 8 out of 10 deck. This is decent, I think. Give that one 8. All right, everyone write that down. Charizard. They're all going to be using the new cards, by the way, so, you know, it's just all about what they happen to include. I hate Rattata and Raticate, so that already I just dislike. The Cyclozar is pretty good. I have the shiny one. You could have 2 Cyclozars in here. I'd rather have Farfetch'd than Cyclozar, but they're close. They both function. Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard are awesome Pokemon. Obviously, you'd run a second Charizard if you have one, but these are good leads, and they're like, I don't know. You don't need to build them up in the back, but you can build them up in the back, and they require very little energy investment. The Magmar as well is kind of good. Sets up really quickly. The HP threshold is kind of nice. 70 is a lot better than 60 actually. And then you know, you got your Magmortar, which you can hit organically. I would probably consider the Stoke Magmar, but I don't think this Magmar is bad. I would definitely run another Magmar. I would take out Magmortar. I would take out the Tauros. I don't love Tauros. This 3 energy should be going on your Magmar. Or like, you know, something else. I don't feel like it should be going on this guy. 80 damage is pretty good, but for 3 energies, it's awkward. 110 HP is quite nice though. I would definitely be running some tools in here. I would definitely be running like Helmet or something. The HP values of this deck are pretty good, so Helmet would just be nice. But you got Charmander as an early game attacker, you got Cyclozar as an early game attacker, and then whatever you do, even Magmar is a fine early game attacker, honestly. You have an early game and you have a late game in this deck, so I think it's quite good. Probably something like Magmar Cyclozar or Cyclozar Magmar would be how you typically do it, and then Charizard at the end. But you could absolutely do like a Charizard into a second Charizard if that's how the game shakes down. I think this deck is okay. Add some Rocky Helmets, add like Sabrina, and it's strong, and just take out the Rattata and the Tauros. I'm gonna give it maybe an 8, maybe a 7. 7 or an 8. There are other cards I would use in this deck instead. I talked about Heatran and Arceus earlier. Probably something like that would be nice. But, you know, it's not like this deck is bad. Wugtrio. We got the Tentacruel. We got the Weasel, which I have the rare art for, and Floatzel. We got the Wiglet, Wugtrio, Dondozo, and Tatsugiri. 1 of each. That's a bit awkward. If you're running these guys, I think you'd probably want 2 of each. Rattata has no business being here. I like that the Mons are pretty low energy. Like, Floatzel and Tentacruel only need a single energy each, so that frees up a lot of time to attach energies to Wugtrio, and even frees up some time to attach energies to Dondozo. I don't really like trying to attack with Dondozo unless you're running Energy Acceleration, and there's no Misty in this deck. Misty would be a very simple and obvious inclusion to the deck. Another Wugtrio would be good. I kind of feel like Floatzel and Tentacruel are kind of doing a bit of the same role. Like, Floatzel's doing attacking anyone, and Tentacruel's only attacking the Mon in front of you, but Tentacruel's doing 10 more damage per hit, and that adds up kind of quickly if you're attacking multiple times. 240s is enough to kill a lot of stuff in the early game, and that's when Tentacruel shines. I think that they have a bit of redundancy, and you could probably swap it out for something else. Energy Acceleration would be feasible here. I don't think it's necessary. Vaporeon would be something you could maybe consider, Island Vaporeon. Manaphy doesn't feel super necessary, but you could run it. Just any water type attacker is fine. You could put Starmie in here if you wanted to. You could put Articuno in here if you wanted to. You could put Palkia in here if you wanted to. You got a lot of freedom. There are a lot of good water cards. But this deck as it is okay. There's no glaring issues with the synergy of this deck, I feel. I would consider running the other Tentacruel. I would consider running Lumineon or something instead of the Tentacruel. Either Lumineon. Either one Lumineon instead of the Tentacruel, the other Lumineon instead of the Floatzel. But I do think this Floatzel's quite good. This Water Arrow Floatzel. And then I think Wugtrio is good enough to build a deck around, so I would just put another Wugtrio in there if it's me. It's kind of weird seeing Iono here because we don't actually have a Stage 2 in this deck, and I think Iono shines when there's Stage 2s. But I don't think the deck is bad. Iono can technically slot into any deck, and it's not a bad card. Obviously tools. I would probably kill the Dundozo and the Tatsugiri and put in some tools. I would put in take out all the Rattata stuff, put in some tools, trainers, all that, you know. Tools and trainers. It's going to be the same with every deck. Just put Sabrina in everything. Okay, Sabrina's a good card. If you're going to play this game, you're going to play the meta, you put Sabrina in your deck. That's how it works. That one gets like that's like an 8 as well. None of these are going to get like a 9 or a 10. 9 or 10 are like reserved for like meta decks. And none of these are meta. I think total we've had like 1 or 2 starter decks that are approaching meta. It's been like, I think the Volkner one was quite strong. I don't even think that one was all the way there, but it was pretty close. That one was like a 9, I think. Pikachu EX. Pikachu EX and Pachirisu are very good friends. I would run it alongside Dawn. They don't have Dawn in here. But I think those 2 cards work really well together. I think the other ones are a little awkward. Like, you really don't want that many high energy attackers when you've got Pikachu. So using the 1 energy Electro would be pretty good, I think. We're just using any of the other electric cards that activate pretty quickly, like Zebstrika. Pommy, Pomo, Pomot, I think that's quite good in this deck. Just as kind of like a low energy, high HP attacker is strong. Lickitung and Licky Licky have absolutely no business being here. Your energy should be going on the Pikachu. You should be running another Pikachu. Oh, Pachirisu cannot attach energies to Lickitung, by the way, just so we're clear. It can only attach energies to electric mons. But another Pikachu, kill the Lickitung for sure. I'd rather have Rattata than Lickitung. Lickitung is bad. But replace these guys with trainers. The Voltorb is okay. I think the most effective Pikachu EX decks I've seen so far have been the Volkner ones. So I would maybe consider just putting Electabuzz and Electivire in here. And most people have a couple of Electivires because of the promo. So doing a Volkner version of this deck would be quite strong, I think. I have this is one of my two stars. The other one's the Iono. I wish I had more 2 stars from this, but I'm happy I have the ones I got. 2 stars are quite rare. X speed is good. I think X speed is basically necessary to get Pachirisu off without discarding its energy, which is occasionally very useful because then you can bring it in later and attach an energy to something else while still getting its attack off to attach another energy to something else. Pachirisu can come in, unlike Manaphy, Pachirisu can easily come in several times during the battle. I personally ran Sky Shaman on my Pikachu deck, but X speed works. I would consider having 2 of them, and I would consider having Dawn. But otherwise, this deck is okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, basic 5 Lickitung, 5 different kinds of basics. That's pretty good. Maybe too many. You don't need all that. Lickitung could just go. It doesn't need its slot filled with something else. That one's like an 8, maybe a 7, maybe an 8, maybe an 8. Giratina, let's see here. We got the Zam, the Giratina, the Drifblim, and Mr. Mime, and Lickitung. Get Lickitung out, okay? Abracadabra, Alakazam are perfect. They can stay. I would maybe consider running Cyrus with the Alakazam. I think the Alakazam actually is kind of an early game card. Like, you want to get it's fine leading with Abra, and you want to get your evolutions off as fast as possible because of the relatively low energy requirements. Plus, in the late game, things will be able to kill Alakazam quickly, but in the early game, they won't. So having Alakazam get a big hit off and then like getting damage on benched mons is quite nice to be able to kill them later, either with Zam or something else. That being said, this deck is a little shy on mons that do a ton of damage other than the Lone Giratina. And the Lone Giratina is actually fairly hard to activate in this deck because you don't have that many free turns. Like, if you lead with Mr. Mime, yeah, you can attach an energy to Giratina. Or if you lead with Giratina, you can attach an energy to it. But, like, most mons can start attacking immediately with an energy. So you just put your 1 energy on them and you just attack with them so Giratina doesn't get a chance to bellow. That being said, the relatively low energy requirements on all these cards mean that you can put your natural turn energies onto Giratina fairly easily. Like, you put 1 energy onto Abra, and then as it's a Kadabra, you don't need to put a new energy on it, so you can put an energy on the Giratina, and then only once you get Zam, you can put a 3rd energy on it. Stuff like that. I think it is very possible in this deck to build Giratina up. Drifblim is a very good early game attacker. I would definitely kill the 2 Mr. Mimes and have a second Drifblim and a second Alakazam and a second Giratina, and then kill the Lickitung line, and then just put trainers in here. Cyrus, something like that. Pokemon Center Lady is okay. It does give your Alakazam more of a chance to actually hit the field because it's very possible the opponent just kills it while it's still a Kadabra, or even an Abra, if you're just slow on drawing your cards. So the sustainability is nice. I think healing cards are fine. Pokemon Centered Lady is the best one you can manage to run in this deck. You don't have that many other supporters in this deck, so you can use Lady and not Potion and get away with it. But I think that you would put other supporters in this deck if you could help it. You would be putting stuff like Sabrina or Cyrus in here. Cyrus is very strong in this because of Alakazam's attack. Looks okay. It's another 8. These are all decent decks, actually. I got nothing bad to say about him. This one's what, Machamp? Yeah, we got the very awkward Hitmonchan. I don't like that. The Hitmonlee is not amazing without the old Lucario. I love the Machop line. I think it's quite good. You can absolutely lead with it. Hitmonlee is a very good lead, this particular Hitmonlee. This Hitmonchan just really has no business being in the deck. Same with the Lopunny. Flamigo. This is the Pinsir, right? Yeah, it's just Pinsir. Pretty funny card. Works as a lead. You're kind of lacking in damage output here. Machamp is like your big hitter, which is a bit awkward because, you know, it's kind of strong, but you need 4 energies on it to get your huge damage, and that's not always easy because Lucario needs quite a lot of energy too. So Hitmonlee's doing the heavy lifting when it comes to having free turns to put on energy to stuff. Like Flamigo is probably only going to get like 1 or 2 attacks off if you lead with it. Hitmonlee will get several off, and then it only needs the Lin energy, so that'll be free turns to put energies on something else. Machop and Machoke and Machamp all curve organically, even if you're going first. But you don't get that huge damage unless you manage to get 4 energies on it. I think this deck is okay. Obviously, you could take out the Buneri, you could put in Cyrus, you could put in Tools if you wanted them. The HP values are pretty good in this deck. Maybe Cape would be worth, but Rocky Helmet would also be good. You could go either way. You could have one of each if you wanted to. Pokemon Communication or Yano are very nice if you're running a Stage 2, which we have here. Deck looks okay. This one's maybe a 7, though. There's like a few just useless mons that I wouldn't have in here. I mean, all of them have useless colorless mons, but I think that the synergy... You can't kind of use both Machop and Lucario. You know what I mean? It's awkward because they're kind of too energy hungry. This Riolu is bad, I feel. I would run the other Riolu. I don't think that one's bad, but I would run the other one. Just because of it's all energy in turns. Like, if you put 1 energy on this and then the opponent just evolves and kills you, it's very awkward, you know? Clodsire. We do have the Grafaiai. I would absolutely run 2 Grafaiais in any deck with Clodsire. Obviously, I would run 2 Clodsires. The Spiritomb is a good Stallmon that will enable you to easily get up Arbok, but it's not really needed for anything else in this deck. Like, Clodsire sets up pretty quickly. Shroodle sets up pretty quickly. Grafaiai. Lickitung sets up really slowly, so I guess Spiritomb helps you set up Lickitung, but Lickitung shouldn't even be here. I think Spiritomb has synergy with Arbok and nothing else. And it's not really strong enough to warrant being used other than stalling to help you build something up. So I love the synergy of Wooper and Shroodle, but and I love the synergy of Spiritomb and Arbok, but I don't feel like they should all be here. I think you should make this deck a little bit more concise, and Lickitung should not be here. I like Team Rocket Grunt. I think you could slot that into any deck. We only have Stage 1, so you don't need Pokemon Communication or but they're nice. Obviously, stuff like Sabrina is okay, but with a Poison deck, it's understandable not to run the Shuffling Mons, because actually bringing something in is not that useful, because it won't be poisoned. But, you can poison it that turn if you get your poison coating off. This one's like a 7 as well. I think this one's okay. Maybe a 6. This one's a little awkward. Lickitung is bringing it down a lot, and then Arbok I think is not amazing, but I do like that Arbok can attack something for 70, and then if it doesn't die, you can bring in Clodsire after and get the Venoshock off. That's kind of cool. The 80 damage factoring in the poison, 90 factoring in the poison into Clodsire's 120 is just enough to kill anything. Tinkaton, we got... I don't love this. Everything needs energy again. Varoom does not curve organically. You need to spend at least a spare turn getting energy on it, which is not always easy because it's a 70 HP Mom, which is not a ton. So you've either got to evolve it early to get the extra 40 HP and not be able to attack that turn, or you've got to put an energy on it before evolving it, which is kind of a liability. Give me Golden Go. Again, you only need 3 energies to attack, but you want as many as possible on it. and it doesn't curve organically, so you have to go for either an early evolution or a Chestaflage, or build it up on the bench. And building it up on the bench is not easy because very few of these mons have spare turns. Like, you need to put an energy on Tinkaton every single step of the way for its evolutionary path. You don't have free time in this deck, so I think that hurts it a lot. I guess Grunt can give you a little bit of free time. You really need like a high HP card with a low energy requirement. Something like a Kangaskhan, something like a Skarmory would be good in here. And then the fact that you've got high HP mons everywhere is quite nice if you want to put a Rocky Helmet on stuff. This deck is like a... This is like a 6. Obviously you want more redundancy as well, as usual. Another Tinkaton, another Golden Go, another River Room. I'd probably not have the River Room and the Golden Go. I think Golden Go is better if you're using it with Dialga. I would not have Golden Go in here at all. It's okay, but I'd be more reliant on the River Room and the Tinkaton. And even the River Room I think is a little suspect. I think you'd have some other Steel type attacker in here. Again, the best Tinkaton set I've seen has been just Skarmory and Tinkaton and no other Pokemon. This deck looks okay. 6, 6.5, maybe 7. Our last one, Bibarel. We randomly have a Psychic Mon in here. We got Drifblim. Drifblim does activate very quickly, thanks to its 1 energy requirement, and then it also retreats for free, which gives you a little bit of versatility because you can bring it out and bring it back in later. You can switch out of it and then Dawn the energy, so that works really well with Dawn, for example. I would have Dawn in this deck if I'm running Drifblim. I do think Drifblim is a fine ally for stuff like Bibarel. 4 energies, I again think is very expensive. If you're not running energy acceleration, it's just hard to get all that onto you. The survivability of this deck is quite good because of the Wigglytuff. I would probably have another with the Wigglytuff. Like, you know, I've been saying put another blank in here, put another blank in there and all that, but like absolutely there should be 2 Wigglytuffs in this deck. You do have free time to attach energies thanks to Cyclizar, and you do have free time to attach energies thanks to Drifblim. So there is spare time that you can use to get Bibarel set up. It's possible, but it's still awkward. And it's not like Bibarel just wins the game once it's set up. It's just very expensive. Pokemon Center Lady, Bibarel, and then Wigglytuff. We have quite a lot of healing in here, which is nice. I think that's kind of... I don't know. I don't know if it's truly... Bibarel will not one-hit KO a lot of stuff. And so it needs sustainability. And healing is nice sustainability. I would maybe... Just having 2 Wigglytuffs would be nice. They can both do their little heal on the same turn. Getting 40 damage healed plus 30 from the Pokemon Center Lady all at once is very helpful for survivability. You can survive a ton of stuff if you get all that. Even like a, I don't know, even like a 100 damage hit. Even like a 120 damage hit. If you're healing 70, you know. Is that enough actually? 40 left and then you heal 70? It's not. Alright, 110. Is that the threshold? So I'd be left with 50 and then I heal 70. Yeah, there you go. You could live 2 110 damage hits if you have all that. Oh, but you've got your attack too. I forgot about that. You're getting the 30 heal. So yeah, you would be able to live multiple 120 damage hits. I would have maybe Capes for their healing properties, or maybe Bibarel, I mean not Bibarel, Rocky Helmet for everything's high HP. I say everything's high HP, but Barrel's the only really tanky thing in here. It's not like this guy has a ton of health. It's not even 100. This deck is not that great. It's like kind of fast, except for the fact that Bibarel needs a gazillion energies on it. I don't think Bibarel is very good. I'm gonna give this one a 5. All the decks are... I think that's the worst one, but all the decks are serviceable. I spent my... the last EX I got was Clodsire. Or rather, the only one I was missing was Clodsire, so I got the Dark deck. I guess that's it for this, you know? If you were just trying to build up useful cards, I guess I would go for the Grass one or the Fire one. Maybe the Psychic one is the really obvious one. Psychic is a good deck and has the best EX card, I think. Psychic is probably the choice. But then the Fire one and the Water one are very strong. And the Electric one is quite strong as well. I think those would be my picks. Anyway, Let's open my booster pack. Wouldn't that be kind of fun? Let's do it. We got 2. Here we go. It'd be really funny if I get like a really crazy card. I'm gonna get like 2-star Yona. I'm gonna get the cinematic Pikachu. Alright, we got red. Gimme Ghoul, Shroodle, Riolu, and Arbok. It was nothing. We got one more chance. I got Hope Forest Rose. Alright. What's the thing I want? I don't have the cinematic Giratina, so I want that. Let me think. If I could have absolutely any card, I would like another Tinkaton, because I only have one. And I want to make a metal deck. So let's get an EX Tinkaton. Palmy, Buizel, Pachirisu, Riolu, Palmont. Oh well. Anyway, thanks for watching.